Investors were puzzled by today's report on the job market. Jobless claims rose by 46,000 in the past week to 388,000. The bigger than expected jump reflects claims not reported by the state of California last week. The Labor Department calls the distortions temporary and blames technical factors in its collection process. Investors were also on the lookout for news out of Europe today. European leaders kicked off a two-day summit in Brussels to work more on resolving the European Union's debt crisis. Joining us now with more on what to expect from that meeting, Andres Garcia Amaya. He's global market strategist at JP Morgan Asset Management. Andres, there's been 22 summits over the past 3 years since this debt crisis started. Do you think that the Europeans have lost their sense of urgency to solve this?
I think to a certain extent, if you look at, by the way, this is the fourth summit this year alone. So these summits, to a certain extent, you can't expect any loss to come out of it. It is important to get all these leaders in one room and try to address the big issues. Having said that, we think the fiscal crisis will probably drag on for a while. When you have 27 politicians all trying to agree on one thing, it's hard enough in this country with two, imagine 27. So it takes a while to get these issues resolved, but we do think they're moving in the right direction.
A lot of disagreement even on the agenda for this meeting. The French want to focus on strengthening the banking system. The Germans are saying that they want to have some kind of authority to have power over national budgets of other countries. So how is this all going to play out?
I think when you think about what the biggest topic should be is how to actually regulate the banking system and try to make it more integrated. And I think from the Germans' perspective, they obviously want to keep the autonomy of Germany. From the French perspective, they want to look at the European Union to actually be closer together. This has been an ongoing battle for a while. Having said that, I think eventually they'll get to the same place because their incentives are aligned. Germany's biggest business is exports, and guess who's actually buying their products? It's actually Europe. So at the end of the day, right, I think they are going to start moving in the right direction.
And you were telling me that as far as U.S. investors are concerned, that there's been a decoupling of what's going on between the U.S. and Europe, especially as we see that Spain is probably going to get the money it needs, and its ratings are stabilized by Moody's recently. So tell us a little bit more about why you think there's this decoupling going on.
Sure, and I think from the market's perspective, we're starting to see a decoupling. The basic theory of this is there were two big issues in Europe. There was a fiscal crisis and a European banking crisis. I think the market is starting to realize that the fiscal crisis is going to take a long time to get resolved, yet the banking crisis to a certain extent has been contained by the ECB stepping in to become the lender of last resort. So for that reason, we're looking at the markets here in the US starting to focus more on fundamentals here in the United States, so much on every headline coming out of Europe.
All right. Should we be more concerned about what's going on in China, especially with the news that came out today that the economy is slowing down and it just keeps coming down? Now it's economy growing GDP at 7.4%, and it just keeps coming down every single quarter. Is that a bigger concern for the U.S. economy and U.S. investors?
Look, the Chinese economy no doubt matters to the global economy. 30% of global economic growth comes from China, so China slowdown matters. From the U.S. perspective, it's a little bit different. What I mean by that is, yes, GDP growth for the last quarter was at 7.4%. Having said that, we think China has started to turn the corner when it comes to seeing some growth, but it's not going to be the same speed that it turned the corner for the last recovery. Most likely than not, China is going to continue to grow around 7 to 8%, not at 10% where it used to grow. From the U.S. perspective, what we care about is what is going to be the engine of growth going forward, which in our eyes is going to be consumption. That fares well for American companies that actually are the beneficiaries of a growing consumer pool out of China and other emerging market countries.
All right, we'll see how it all plays out. Andres, thanks so much for coming on. Andres Garcia Amaya, global market strategist at JP Morgan Asset Management.
Thank you, Susie.